House of the Dragon Season 2 finale dealt with the complex ideas of destiny and the effect of knowing one's own existential fate and cosmic place before it comes to pass. No, I'm not talking about any prophecies. I'm talking about 3 inescapable words for any fan of the world of Westeros.
Winter is coming.
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 It's not that certain characters are fated with certain deaths, it's that we, the fans, will never stop being reminded of the worst side of Game of Thrones. You know, the parts that killed all goodwill for the franchise, made people not want to give House of the Dragon a chance, and resulted in thousands upon thousands of unsold Funko Pop figures, probably. So whether they intended to or not, the makers of House of the Dragon have me asking my own existential question. Why are they doing this?
Do you accept me as your queen and ruler? I wish you to go to Harrenhal, find out his intentions.
Spoilers ahead for House of the Dragon and the Season 2 finale. For most of this season, Daemon spent his time away from Rhaenyra in Harrenhal, having haunted house hallucinations instead of participating in the battles and political intrigue. He worked through some you get it. By the end, the witch Alice Rivers, aka my favorite character, shows Daemon a look at his future and, in a way, the future of Westeros. The White Walkers will one day come, as will the prince who was promised, Daenerys Targaryen. Daemon will not be king, but must support Rhaenyra and ensure his Targaryen line survives and prevails. He must accept his role, play it, and additionally accept his own death, which he takes in stride, surprisingly enough. Coincidingly, Daemon's biggest fan, Aemond, is also told about his future. No, really, he is flat out told about his future, not in a hallucination, and it isn't metaphorical in any way.
You'll be dead. You were swallowed up in the god's eye, and you were never seen again.
Which, sure, I guess. I mean, this does remove agency if you believe the prophecy, which Daemon does and Aemond probably doesn't, but it's a curveball.
And you're but one part in it. You know your part.
This could be an opportunity to explore the idea of knowing one's own destiny and how someone could either accept or deny it. Furthermore, is the idea of destiny set in stone or self-fulfilling, paired with the fourth wall-breaking knowledge of what we know as viewers of Game of Thrones and readers of George R.R. Martin's books, that we know the future of these characters and this world, we have the beginnings of a novel concept. The show could do something extremely meta and insert the extra knowledge beyond the text into the show in a meaningful way that subverts expectations. Or it can much more easily make the same mistakes as the Star Wars franchise.
It's a trap!
Yeah, they could be facing a prequel problem where dramatic irony gets misused, or an IP mining problem where the show becomes too attached to just returning to the base IP instead of paving new ground. House of the Dragon is now directly tied to Game of Thrones instead of just effectively tied by nature of the show existing in the history of the same world.
Sola Armazis.
By doing this, the show has separated from the trajectory it was on, what it was based on in the book Fire and Blood, and is writing in connections to existing older IP. Instead of, say, telling the story, we're creating new connections that definitely weren't in the supporting text in order to shuttle Game of Thrones in as a crutch. However, while the Star Wars sequel trilogy and almost every single Disney Plus Star Wars show can't help themselves from referencing the original Skywalker Saga trilogy, a set of extremely beloved and well-regarded movies, by the way, House of the Dragon is directly evoking the Night King story, which is not beloved. Another way House of the Dragon is taking a worrying turn is that it is far off the rails being what George R.R. Martin wrote. I don't need to belay the point too far, but it is generally agreed on that the best parts of Game of Thrones were based on stories George R.R. Martin originally authored, and the bad stuff came along when the show ran out of books to cover and had to wing what happened next. Sure, the king is Bran and Jon Snow is nothing? Yep, love it. Martin even has a quote about this on his blog. Quote, "Everywhere you look, there are more screenwriters and producers eager to take great stories and make them their own. No matter how major a writer it is, no matter how great the book, there always seems to be someone on hand who thinks he can do better, eager to take the story and improve on it. Then they make the story their own. They never make it better though. 999 times out of 1,000, they make it worse." He added that the Shogun adaptation does not fall into this, which co-signed. And yeah, this may sound like self-important writerly pompousness, but tell me where the lie is, especially in regard to his own work. House of the Dragon does in some ways help and hurt the characters it revolves around. In another video, I praised Rhaenyra and Alicent for being more three-dimensional characters with conflicted feelings and allegiances facing an uphill societal battle that divides the former friends and could easily defeat them both. And that's still true. However, as of the season finale, I have no idea what anyone is even doing anymore. Alicent has been inconsistently portrayed this entire season, especially in regard to what she wants and how she views her own children, except Rhaena and the one she hasn't met. Her main thing to do this season, realize her husband, the king, did not want Aegon on the throne at all, happened way too early, and she didn't do anything following this besides get ignored, go out on her own, and somehow sneak into Dragonstone undetected to make really left-field requests of Rhaenyra. Seriously, how does a secret trip between Dragonstone and King's Landing ending directly with an off-the-books meeting with the Queen keep happening? And why does the show think that this is our favorite thing? And how is a friendship that lasted 2 show episodes the most important one of the entire show? I have no idea where my childhood friends are, and I could easily look it up. But back to my point, I understood who Alicent was in season 1, and now I'm not really so sure, and it's a bit of a letdown.
I did only what I thought your father wanted.
Rhaenyra, like Alicent, and like Rhaena for that matter, has also found herself constantly regulated to just being a voice of reason no one listens to or takes seriously, despite being the damn queen.
A knight will comport himself with grace at the Queen's table.
We keep getting these moments when Rhaenyra turns to the camera, fire in her eyes, looming epic theme song blaring like she's about to do something amazing, and all she does is sit down and tell her council they have to take less drastic measures. Logically, yes, it's the right thing to do, but give her a memorable anecdote to say at the level of, "I will break the wheel," or at least cut the thundering framework. In the books, while you can argue Rhaenyra and Alicent are less developed and more prone to cruelty, at least they have moments where they get to be cool or say some biting quip to their opponent. What the show adaptation seems to be doing is going off the page a little to increase characterization and interiority, which is good. It is also wildly driving the plot somewhere different than what was meant to happen entirely, which is less good. We seem to now be doing the latter. And okay, this may be controversial with the people who still argue about GRRM's intentions because he won't write the dang Winds of Winter, but in the show Game of Thrones, which is being directly referenced, Dany is not the prince who was promised. Remember? She and Jon Snow are both kind of as a duo, or maybe neither, but if we're talking about who killed the Night King, then technically Arya Stark is the prince who was promised, so Daemon's destiny vision is kind of pointless. He technically doesn't have to protect his and Rhaenyra's line of succession over Alicent's because that's inconsequential to the future. He really just has to ensure the Starks live. Or maybe Alice could have shown him a vision of Robert Baratheon smashing Rhaegar to death with a warhammer, or smug Joffrey sitting the throne. Then Daemon could realign his goals to kill all Lannisters and Baratheons, which is something Book Daemon would be very much in favor of doing, by the way. It's just that this vision doesn't make a lot of sense if we're looking at it in the context of Game of Thrones viewers, which seems to be the intention. Perhaps it's meant to be a subverted method that just serves the goal of getting Daemon to just shut up for once and help his wife regardless of the truth? Sure. It doesn't make a lot of sense to pull the Game of Thrones story into the world of House of the Dragon for quite a few reasons. Firstly, it doesn't make sense narratively. Seeing into the future is cool and all. I mean, Bran did it, and who had better stories than him? But certainly other devices could have been used to motivate Daemon into supporting Rhaenyra. The Prince That Was Promised Dream of Aegon storyline was an interesting addition to the show. It made it clear that belief that she is the only one who can save the world is Rhaenyra's reason for gunning for the throne instead of sheer entitlement. And it served to explain Alicent's confusion about what Viserys was saying in his last words, which gave her a plausible out from being motivated selfishly as well. It is of important note that both of them have good motivations and are not merely motivated by fear and hubris, like in the book. To me, it would be preferable to let that particular story addition serve only that purpose. Daemon, in fact, doesn't need proof that only his wife can stop the snow zombies from the future in order to stand by her. He could just stand by her or have a myriad of other reasons to push him in that direction. Literally, he could have moved forward without that look to the future. All the other Harrenhal messed up dream sequences, especially the one with Viserys looking beaten by the crown, could and should have been enough to motivate him into changing his path without knowing his literal role on rails. The Game of Thrones direct link is also hugely unneeded. There is literally a book written that provides a roadmap for how this should go. I actually like a lot of character additions that Hot D creators added, like the characters' motivations, insecurities, and interiorities, the betrayal of friendship and family, and the deep problems with Westerosi governance. Especially when you know where a story is heading, which we do these humanistic details matter and are fascinating to explore from a character perspective. It sounds like a cliche, but the best part of a story is often not where it ends, but how it gets there, and that is hugely the case for epic novel adaptations. The point is to use this new medium to convey the story in ways a book simply can't. And yeah, okay, I'll say it. Most viewers really hate the ending of Game of Thrones, and it's strange to directly refer to the least liked era of this in your new show when you've literally been given a second chance to do this world justice after a massive crash landing finale the time before. People did not like the ending of Game of Thrones, and House of the Dragon is a rare second chance to reopen a world many turned their backs on. They liked the roads before. They liked the Baratheon battle to claim the crown, the politicking, the horror, the injustices and revenge, the clever maneuvering. No one, and I mean no one, is really into how the Night King storyline, The Long Night, was wrapped up, and much of Season 8 in general. If you're going to fan service, pushing in elements no one liked the first time around is not serving anyone, except maybe diehards who really want to retroactively fix issues with the original with the follow-ups, again, much like Star Wars has done with later entries. Just let it go. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
It's long been a complaint that rather than move on with new stories, popular franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, and even DC have often resorted to playing the hits or just creating referential work that doesn't really go anywhere or serve anything other than that part of the cinematic universe that was already a hit, instead of attempting new stories independent of their popular forebearers. It's a valid complaint too. What is House of the Dragon doing if the memba berries they're serving are pretty rotten and always have been?
Who among you would be first?
House of the Dragon as an entity sits in a very interesting position. It is part of a massive franchise, but it's a franchise that has baggage and could use some reputation fixing. It has largely delivered on what made Game of Thrones a sensation, which is drawing similarities between what worked before while remaining its own thing. We are often promised, as fans, that shows, movies, and even video games will merely exist in the worlds we love, but be truly independent stories that are new. Then we get Yoda at the end of The Acolyte, or Emperor Palpatine is the bad guy. Again, somehow.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
It actually takes bravery to tell a story divorced from the other, bigger part of your IP, like the Skywalkers, or in this case, the events of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was such a hit because it dared to have its own point of view and voice that was unexpected by mass audiences and genre fans. With a story continuation like this, there is an advantage of the vibe being baked in from the start, and from there, the show could build its own story free from the negative aspects of the founding show. This was a chance to cherry pick the good and shed the baggage from Game of Thrones, not run back and grab it, all of it, again. Time moves on, this is true, and so should our stories. You can actually keep what made the original beloved. Themes, perspective, surprises, whatever it may be, but keep it fresh and different. Properties should be able to advocate their own existences. That's why I've been so excited about House of the Dragon and why this finale and some parts of season 2 have been a cynical step in the other direction. Some shows aren't strong enough to stand on their own feet and need the IP crutch. Unfortunately, this show is strong enough, but grab the crutch anyway. Thanks for watching. I'm Kim Horcher, and I've been doing long-form House of the Dragon video essays all season. Check them out, and for all the best in entertainment and video game news coverage, you're already in the best spot, IGN.com.